If by some chance, some stroke of luck, or some act of God, you have stumbled upon this broadcast, you are listening to the Chivalry Chronicles with your host, Dr. DLH.
I'm a damn doctor.
David.
We're going to bring the tea
refuse
to not drink during the podcast.
Yeah.
And me, Jaime.
They need to make podcast equipment a lot more expensive to get some of these clowns off the air.
Gather around as we discuss a modern, manly approach to chivalry. So I hope you're ready, because I know we are. So let's get into it. And we're back, sitting here, having a couple of beers, talking to Leo Noriega, which is we brought him on as the preeminent authority on Metallica. Is that right?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go that far. Like, I think our other brother would have something to say about that.
I think you would, but since we brought you on, we got to put some kind of authority figure on it or a stamp on it. But today we're going to talk about the rise and fall of Metallica. So when you think Metallica, I mean, most people would say the greatest heavy metal band ever. I mean, in some respects they are, right? They're the most well-known. Talk to most people, they know the name. But some of us, our older brother was the biggest Metallica fan we know. And he latched on to Metallica right after they were formed. I mean, I would say probably 1985, 84.
Yeah.
He was on
and
board.
Then he'll say to this day, it's not his favorite band, but it still is.
I've never heard him say that, so next time I talk to him, I'm going to ask him that. But
he'll say like Death or Napalm Death, like, nah. You're trying to sound hardcore now. This is your first love.
And all you can do is laugh at him like, come on, man. I mean, Metallica, and the name itself, let's just talk about the name. It's kind of the essence of heavy metal, right? Like there's certain names. Judas Priest, I think, comes to mind as like that's a heavy metal name. Black Sabbath,
yeah,
that's a heavy metal name. Those names just exude heavy metal.
They resonate. They're ominous. They're
yeah.
That's all the things you want from scary music, scary parents.
And
well, not ours because they didn't know what that meant. But,
yeah, and it transcends all cultures. I mean, heavy metal is everywhere, right? South America, Mexico, United States. If you go to any European concert, they're freaking rabid over there. Fans, where they have that big concert every year in is it Germany? I can't.
Yeah,
remember.
the Wacken Festival.
Yeah,
and Mexico, Mexico City.
I mean, it's great. It's one of those things that, kind of binds people from different races, different cultures. It's just, I don't think people understand. Music in general just brings people together. But heavy metal, growing up, right, we listened to it. And it wasn't like something that we came up with. It was something that we had cousins, older cousins than we were, that listened to Black Sabbath and Iron Maiden and Led Zeppelin. They kind of introduced it to us at a young age. I mean, I was listening to this stuff, by the time,
and that's
1980.
I think even before that, it's Kiss.
Kiss, yeah. Kiss, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin. I mean, you kind of go through it, and they were big fans of that. And so when they introduced it to us, I think we took it and ran with it.
Yeah.
So, we can sit here and discuss heavy metal forever. Like, I read an article, maybe like 8 years ago, that talked about San Antonio being the heavy metal capital of Texas, the heavy metal capital of Texas. And I was like,
what?
bullshit.
I didn't see that. That's no. Where did that? No.
Yeah, I was like, bullshit. I was like, Joe's Garage in Fort Worth.
Dallas, Fort Worth.
Dallas, Texas.
Come on, man.
Yeah, because
and as a like metal fan, because of y'all, I have been to shows in San Antonio. I've been to shows in Houston. I've been to shows in Dallas. I've been like the metal scenes are different. Obviously there's more Latinos in San Antonio. But the fervor, it's different in Dallas. Maybe it's that's us being biased, but it's different.
Well, here's the thing. Here's where I had a big issue with it, because I've lived in San Antonio for the past 25, 26 years, and it's not just heavy metal, but almost every big act, every big band just hops over San Antonio. They go to Dallas and they go to Houston. Sometimes they go to Austin, but if they're going to skip a city, they skip San Antonio. And when I moved down here, I'm like, what the hell? Because living in Dallas, you get every great show. Every great show goes to Dallas. Every great show goes to Houston. And for some reason, San Antonio, sometimes Austin, they're like a afterthought. And so you can't very well be the heavy metal capital of Texas if shows don't even come here. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, the only thing... Go ahead.
Your favorite band, Jaime, Iron Maiden, they always either start their tour, U.S. tour in Texas, or end it there.
Correct.
I mean, we just went the dead last show, right, in
November.
The U.S. in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Which that doesn't do much for our
the
point
argument. But, maybe because I'm here and I'm the biggest Iron Maiden fan, they're like, hey, let's give Jaime a break. And not because I did drive to Dallas. We did drive to Dallas for a concert. We went to Austin for a concert. But here's the other thing, right? I was thinking about. There are concerts that, the bands that we saw in Dallas, and I mean, we saw shows everywhere, right? But some of the bands that we saw in Dallas went to small venues, man. It was like, Joe's Garage is my house is probably bigger than Joe's Garage.
No, and then when I started going to shows, there was Deep Ellum Live, there was the Galaxy Club, there was Bronco Bowl, there was
Billy Bob's. Was it Billy Bob's? There was warehouses. I mean, sometimes it'd just be warehouses somewhere in downtown Dallas off of Deep Ellum, or it's just I don't know how. I don't know who's booking these shows, these managers but you would get big acts in Dallas every single time. So I did have an issue with that. I did read the article. I did comment. So if you pull up that article, I was like, negatory.
Yeah.
Erroneous on all accounts.
Erroneous on all accounts. Yeah.
But anyway, Metallica. So we'll give some background, right? I'm just going to pull up your, run-of-the-mill Wikipedia Metallica page. And I read the first sentence, right? American heavy metal band, formed in Los Angeles, 1981. James Hetfield, Lars Ulrich. If you know Metallica, you know those two names. Some people hate those two names, and most people hate Lars Ulrich.
Yeah, he just is insufferable sometimes. He can be that person, right?
Yeah. But growing up, listening to Metallica around the time that they kind of came out of nowhere, you associated Metallica with a Bay Area band. The Bay Area thrash scene. That's just what you associated them with. So when I hear that, or when I see that they formed in LA, I mean, that's something, okay, they might have, but they're not associated with LA. They're associated with the Bay Area. I mean,
San Francisco, right?
Yeah. The other thing that I was talking to you before we started recording is that I saw an interview with Lars Ulrich, and they were asking him, how did you come up with the name Metallica? And he was saying that he had a friend that was going to start a magazine, and he had two names that he had picked out, and one was Metal Mania, and the other one was Metallica. And according to the story, it said Lars Ulrich said kind of pushed him towards doing Metal Mania because he felt like, I'm going to take Metallica and start my own band with that name. Now, when I saw that, or when I saw that interview or that YouTube video or whatever, that was new to me. I was like, okay, I didn't know that.
I hadn't heard that story either.
I mean, what did you hear when you first heard of Metallica and how they came up with the name? What did you think about?
I mean, this was the 80s, right? Like, I mean, obviously I'm younger than y'all, so this is pre-internet, right? So everything is kind of just out there, and it's just rumors and Hit Parader and Circus magazine. So yeah. I thought they were going to be Alcoholica, right? Alcoholica.
Right. And there were shirts that said Alcoholica, and I mean that's kind of what you heard, and maybe it is the fact that social media has information everywhere. Back then, if you remember, we would read the album covers from cover to cover. We would read the cassette. We'd pull that cassette out. We'd read the lyrics. We'd read the thank yous. Sometimes, they'd be like, we want to thank, San Francisco area or this guy or these fans.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. Do I have Metallica on vinyl or cassette? By the way, had y'all already transitioned to cassette? Because I don't remember if there was any. We
had vinyl.
Okay.
Yeah. I had the Master of Puppets vinyl album. Pancho, our brother, remember he had the gold Creeping Death.
Oh, wow.
Album. I mean, it was a huge.
He's got to have that somewhere still.
I think he ran off with that when he moved out of the house. That, if I ever find it, I'm buying it. It just looked cool. I mean, most vinyls are black. If for the kids out there, vinyl is your, if you type in, records, you'll see a vinyl. Well, this one was gold. And it looked really cool. Like when that.
I remember that artwork on the Creeping Death single, and then obviously the B side is the famous "Am I Evil" song. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but continue what you were saying.
Yeah, we are. But anyway, I mean, we associated Metallica with Bay Area bands. When Metallica came out, they were just different, right? They were a thrash metal band. They were faster. They played, aggressive. I mean, if you look at the first album that you probably came upon was Kill 'Em All. And the album cover is it's iconic. I mean, if you take the first four album covers, they are iconic. And if you look at the shirt that, I mean, I think our brother had one, but originally you had stated, what was the name of the original, what they wanted to name Kill 'Em All?
Metal Up Your Ass.
Metal Up Your Ass. And there is a shirt that has a toilet.
Just a dagger, just freaking.
And when you start kind of getting the I guess the playbook, right? You want to be shocking, but
yeah,
we had that shirt. It's basically Metallica. It has a toilet, and it has I guess it's a fist with a knife coming through the through the toilet, and it does say "Metal Up Your Ass." I mean, if you're 12, 13, 14, you want that shirt. Like, I want that shirt. And parents at the time were probably like, what the hell is going on? Like, what is this?
We'll be back after a quick break. Attention, all golfers. Get ready to tee off for the most exciting event of the year, the 11th annual Four Links Classic Golf Tournament. The San Antonio Alumni Association of Omega Delta Phi is bringing you back to Brackenridge Park Golf Course for a beautiful day in the sun and on the green. Four Links is once again brought to you by our title sponsor, Nathan Obregon, your State Farm insurance agent. Like a good neighbor, Nate is there. Sign up today and receive a complimentary polo with your round of golf. Look sharp and feel great as you compete with your fellow golfers. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just looking for a great time, the Four Links Classic is the place to be. Mark your calendars and get ready to swing into spring on April 4th. Visit our website at fourlinksclassic.com to register and get all the details. Make your first tournament of 2025 your best tournament of 2025 at the Four Links Classic. We'll see you on the green.
Yeah. And that's like as much as they push the envelope though. And then you have their counterparts like Slayer and, which really went really crazy with the imagery, the satanic imagery and all that cool stuff, which is awesome too. But, Metallica at the time were kind of,
Yeah, they pushed the envelope a little bit. So I think Metallica was the gateway metal band. Like they say, what is it? Marijuana was a gateway drug. Metallica was your gateway metal band.
And what's interesting about Metallica, I think, is your traditional, like if you were talking about heavy metal, like Black Sabbath, really like universally kind of accepted as the first heavy metal band. And then you could make a case for Led Zeppelin, but again, there were more blues, bluesy, hard blues. And even though they have metal elements to them, Metallica, their influences were more punk and like new wave, what they call the new album, right? New wave of British heavy metal, Diamond Head, all that stuff, and Iron Maiden and old Def Leppard, that kind of music, and punk music, Motorhead kind of. So it's almost like because if these two communities don't mix together, like heavy metal and punk rock, they just don't mix. Like they don't like each other. Like
right,
the punk rockers are posers, right? We're like, so for Metallica to kind of embrace the punk rock side of their influences and put, kind of inject it into their music, and that's where the fast, rhythm comes from. It's punk rock.
Right.
I just always thought that was interesting, that the metalheads hate the punk rockers, but Metallica embraced punk rock, and now everyone loves Metallica, even though they, by proxy, now like punk rock. I think.
Yeah, no, they did so many things that were apart from what was going on at the time, and then in that same I guess in that same realm, you have the big four, right? Now if we say the big four to anybody that listens to metal, they automatically know what that is. So those four bands, which was Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, and Megadeth, they kind of set themselves apart, and there is some beef between Megadeth and Metallica. And we'll tell you why, right? So when Metallica came up, it was Lars Ulrich and James Hetfield, and who was their guitarist? But Dave Mustaine.
Dave Mustaine.
Right.
Mega Dave. And then they had another bassist. Ron McGovney?
Yeah, Ron McGovney.
Right.
So that was the first iteration of Metallica. And then, they went and go get Cliff Burton. And they start recording, right? They have a lot of music at the time. And then there's some I guess there's starting to be some issues with Dave Mustaine and Metallica. It's really interesting when you listen to Metallica side of it, and then when you go back and listen to the Dave Mustaine side of it. By the time we listen to it, we love both bands, right? And it's cool to pick on Metallica fans if you're a Megadeth fan, and it's cool to pick on Megadeth fans if you're a Metallica fan. But
right, it's the first great rivalry in metal, Metallica versus Megadeth.
Right, yeah, it's the same thing as Ice Cube versus NWA. Just like this guy leaves your band.
Tupac and Biggie.
Yeah, it's
for different reasons.
It's just like that. So Dave Mustaine, the funniest thing the first time I heard it, I'd laughed, and he said Dave Mustaine is like, stupid people and violent people don't get along. And Dave Mustaine was like, hey, I drink a lot and I get violent. And these guys are just goofy, And I mean, if you listen to Dave Mustaine, there's still some hatred there. Maybe it's kind of gone over, but he's never going to be cool with it.
Yeah. And then he's still like, he trolls Metallica because he wrote a lot of songs on Kill 'Em All, and a lot of his songs were also writing credits on Ride the Lightning. Like if you listen to the, mechanics on the first Megadeth album is Four Horsemen, which he wrote that song. It's just funny how like over the years, Megadeth has let it go, and Metallica have always been like, whatever, Dave.
Yeah,
they dismiss him, but we'll get into that too. Like,
right, because they're sort of the way they came up, and when we say the downfall of Metallica, it's pretty clear to people that listen to metal in the mid '80s to the late '80s to the early '90s. Where metal fans that understand it know exactly what that timeline is.
Yeah.
As opposed to when you listen to Megadeth, it almost seemed like they went faster and harder,
Yeah.
When Metallica kind of, I don't know, but okay, we'll work up to it. Let's kind of.
Let me just real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
We were big comic book fans and comic book collectors in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
Do you remember the heavy metal comics? I forget what the title was called. It was like Heavy Metal Tales or Heavy Metal something. So there was like a novel, like a graphic novelization, but it was a comic book of the Megadeth Metallica beef kind of situation. I don't know where that comic book is. I wish I don't have it.
Isn't it called Heavy Metal?
I don't know what it was called. But it's like a retelling, like revisionist history of what happened with that whole thing. And I remember the panel. I could see it in my head. Dave Mustaine, they're kicking him out of the band. He's like, y'all are going to regret this. He's like, I'm going to make a new band, and it's going to be called Megadeth. You'll be, he's being like the Green Goblin, like diabolical. This is, you won't get away with this, Spider-Man. Like, I love it. I wish I remembered where that comic book is, or if somebody has it. But yeah. I'm going to do some research on it. Anyway.
Well, they did have the movie, that animated movie that was called Heavy Metal. And I think it's kind of along the lines with that. I'm gonna look it up really quick. Give me a second.
It's a comic book. I just can't remember what they were called. They were like Metal something Tales, or it was the Metallica story.
Yeah, it's what I'm pulling up is Revolutionary Comics, and it does talk about Metallica. So maybe that's the one. Hard Rock Comics.
What year? Yeah, whatever year was it? Had been like 87 or 88 or something.
Yeah, it's. I mean, when you kind of go through it, and I think you mentioned it when we were talking about this podcast is when we saw the NWA movie here recently. When you're watching it, you're like, yeah, I remember that. I remember that too. Yes, I remember DLC getting in the accident. Yeah, we all wondered what's going to happen to his voice. It never came back. You know, spoiler alert. He never got his voice back. But it's the same thing. Like I think it's always going to be a rivalry. It's always going to be a rivalry between Slayer and Metallica.
Yep.
It's always going to be a rivalry between Metallica and Megadeth. And then Anthrax is kind of just over there doing their own thing, you know?
Right, because they're like, we didn't even really talk about the New York thrash bands, which is, you know, Exodus, Overkill. Is Overkill from New York also?
I don't think Overkill is from there, but it might be. I mean, it's one of those. I think they're from New Jersey, so I guess it's New York. But yeah,
East Coast, but just East Coast. Where's we were trying to hunt down the famous picture of you with Exodus at the whatever signing in Dallas the other day.
I mean, we went to so many shows as kids. I mean, it was like we worked with my dad, right? With our dad, we worked during the summer, and we made enough money to go to concerts and basically buy beer. That's all we did in the summers.
Or wait, it was Bobby Blitz. Who did you meet?
Bobby Blitz, yeah, the singer for Overkill.
Yeah, so Overkill, not Exodus, my bad.
Yeah, Overkill. I have a picture where there's a picture somewhere where I think he signed a shirt or a jacket, and there's a picture of him where he's flipping me off. Like,
yeah. You're wearing your leather jacket. I remember it. Like I could see it in my head.
Yeah, somebody has that picture somewhere, and it's kind of cool, you know. It's like Bobby Blitz was a singer for Overkill. They were coming to a show, and it's those times where they would go to the local record store, and you could just walk up and get whatever sign, meet them, take a picture with them, you know. And then be like, all right, see you at the show later. You know, it's like one of those things. Like, I don't think it happens as much. I don't think it's at least. Well, I don't keep up with it as much as I used to. But you know, when have you heard? Hey, Taylor Swift is going to be downtown signing autographs.
Yes. So Overkill and Anthrax are the only ones from the East Coast because Testament and Exodus are also in California. So they're kind of on an island, you know, literally and figuratively, Anthrax and
yeah, I guess you have other bands like Nuclear Assault and those bands that were kind of East Coast type bands. But
the next wave of like that kind of thrash, like all the copycat bands.
Yeah, I mean,
but you know, we don't need to get into the minutia of like thrash.
Yeah,
minutia. Remember that band? Minutia was. I'm just bullshit.
You had Testament. Testament was a West Coast band. That was, you know, adjacent. It was like before adjacent.
Right. We call it. You know, you can go to the Big Eight: Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax, Overkill, Exodus, Testament. Who would be the other one? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't think of the other one. That
Exodus, Overkill, Testament. I don't know.
Death Angel was a West Coast band.
Yeah.
Which I have a great story if we can get to it. But anyway, let's go back. Let's go back to Metallica. Yep. All right. So let's look at the discography, right? The first album was Kill 'Em All. Was supposed to be called Metal Up Your Ass. Great t-shirt. If you're a metal band, if you're a metal fan, find that shirt on Amazon. Buy it. It's awesome. You know, wear it proudly. That was
Everyone wears Metallica shirts now, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, 1983. You know, set yourself apart from everybody that's wearing Master of Puppets. You know, Kill 'Em All came out in 1983. If you listen to Kill 'Em All, it's grittier, you know. It's not as refined. It's
raw, really raw.
It's super raw. It's so great. It's a really good album. Then you have Ride the Lightning, where they get a little bit more, a little bit more refined. You get Fade to Black.
Right.
It's just For Whom the Bell Tolls, which is a great song. Probably
Creeping Death.
Creeping Death. One of my favorite songs is For Whom the Bell Tolls. The album cover is iconic,
Mm-hmm.
with the
chair.
The chair, the electric chair, suspended in midair, and there's lightning all on it. I mean, it's great. Our brother had this blue jean vest with that on the back of it. And it's, I mean, that's all I've ever thought about. Anytime I think of Ride the Lightning, I think of that jacket that he wore every day of his life for those 4 or 5 years, and of that time. And then, of course, you get Master of Puppets, and everyone knows that album cover.
Yep.
It's so great. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, the red that's kind of in the background, and that's what's kind of cool about Metallica. Like Ride the Light, Kill 'Em All was white background, and it had a lot of red to it because you have that kind of that hammer, that anvil, with the red. And then you had Master of Puppets, which was blue. It's basically predominant color on that is blue.
Ride the Lightning.
Yeah, Ride the Lightning. And then you have, Master of Puppets. And then it's, I mean, if anybody's, most people, hopefully you know what the album cover looks like. But it has the hands in the background, has Metallica in white, kind of that stone looking white, has the hands in the background. And it has the crosses. The crosses, which is, I think it resembles the, like a military, anyways, like all these crosses at the bottom. And that album cover is just iconic as well.
Everyone knows it. Everyone knows that.
It's great.
Like I think everyone owns that T-shirt too. I might have it in my closet.
It's so awesome. All the white crosses, the strings from you'll see some hands, on either side of Metallica, the logo for Metallica. Yeah, the hands with the strings. And that for that album, they toured with Ozzy. And
right, they were opening, right?
They were the opening act for Ozzy, and I remember them coming to Dallas, and this was probably, I don't know, if Master of Puppets came out in 86, this was somewhere around 86, 87. So I had to been more like around 13 years old, and begging our brother, Pancho, right? Jose, let's go to this show. And all we needed was a truck. We needed a ride to it. At that time, sometimes we didn't even have tickets to some of these shows, because back in the day, you used to have to actually go somewhere to buy tickets. You had to go to Sears to go to Rainbow Ticketmaster.
The Ticketmaster booth.
Go to the Rainbow Ticketmaster booth. You'd see Sears and all these older people, and then you see all these metalheads. You'd
have to stand in line. I mean, I even experienced that. Like, I'm not too much younger than y'all. Like, I still stood in line at Ticketmaster booth, and but you had physical tickets, right? Like that. I wish we still had that.
Yeah, and I was telling him, I was like, ask our dad let us borrow the truck, and then he's like, no, you can't do it, and all this and that. But I still regret the day that we we missed that concert, which would have been one of the best concerts we ever attended.
Yep.
But I mean, we made up for it. The other concert, coincidentally, is this fool went to go see Iron Maiden for the Somewhere in Time tour.
Somewhere in time. Wow.
And it, for a time being there, it was in the Guinness Book of World Records for one of the loudest concerts. And it was held at Reunion Arena in Dallas. And I hated him for it. And I still kind of hate him for it.
Is that real? Like, I don't think I ever heard that story.
Yeah. He went to that concert with one of his buddies. Oh man, I can't remember his name. He played guitar too. He was a cool dude. But man, I wanted to go so bad. But at the time,
somewhere in time. Wow.
And he went without me. But I was a kid, right? I was probably like 13, 14. And at the time,
I was 6.
You're at that age where your older brothers don't want to hang out with you. It's like,
yeah. You're a nuisance. You're a nuisance.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. This fucking pretty.
And you're like, I want to go. That's my favorite band. And they're like, yeah. So see you later. And I still hold a little bit of a grudge. And then sometimes it's a big ass grudge because I'm like, that was probably one of the best concerts ever in the history of concerts. But yeah, I still hate him for it till this day. But anyway, Master of Puppets, 1986. And then the tragedy hits, right? Right now,
right.
The what is it, the VH1 or the MTV True Life Story or whatever. This is when the screen goes dark.
Yeah.
Is like tragedy hits Metallica.
They start to play Orion in the background, right? The instrumental. I have to make light of it, but they always do that.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Behind the music, Metallica, and they play Orion. Anyway.
It's great. It's a great instrumental too. But, as every Metallica fan knows, Cliff Burton, they're touring somewhere in Europe or something, and their bus, basically they crash, and he gets, he dies. I think he was asleep at the time.
He was tossed from the bus, and he just, it's a whole.
Yeah, and they were touring for Master of Puppets, and he dies. And so, if you're a fan of music, this happens more often, more often than you like to think about. But this was a big deal for us, because even as a kid, right? I'm 13 years old, and I'm thinking, what's going to happen to Metallica?
Right.
I mean, how do they recover?
Even
from
if
this?
even if you rewind, like, I don't know, 6 years. I mean, I wasn't born yet, but when John Bonham died, Led Zeppelin was like, that's it. There is no Led Zeppelin without John Bonham, right?
Right.
And they just said, we're done.
Yeah. AC/DC, Bon Scott dying. I mean, it happens all the time. Randy Rhoads, he died 24 years old or whatever. I mean, it does happen a lot, but those things that already happened, like in your consciousness, that's already happened. This is happening in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Like one day you're enjoying Master of Puppets and you're enjoying the greatness of Cliff Burton, and then he's dead, and then you're wondering what's going to happen to this band. Like, are they ever going to recover from this?
Well, I mean, you could fast forward, like, if we're just going way into the future. With me, when I was a teenager, it was like, Kurt Cobain, Eazy-E, and Tupac, and and that was just the end of that was the end, right? There was no more there's no Nirvana without Kurt Cobain,
right? So we're not going to talk about Selena either.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Yeah, Selena, cool. That too.
But yeah, no, it was a big deal. Now, I'm not gonna sit there and tell you that we're sitting there crying and all that. But
No.
but it was a when you're now, granted, my brothers and I, you know, Leo, you were probably part of this too. We get together and we drink a couple of beers, and usually this is the discussion for like 1 a.m., right? Where you've had one too many and you're sitting there going, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I mean, is it over for them? I mean, all that stuff that you got from, behind the music on VH1. This is what we discussed. This is what we talked about. Who would replace him, And lo and behold, they find someone, right? And it's Jason Newsted.
From your favorite band.
Yeah, from one of my favorite bands, Flotsam and Jetsam. But before that, they released what was it? I guess it was a VHS tape.
Oh, Cliff 'em All.
Cliff 'em All. And let me tell you, I don't have a copy of this, but the copy that we did have, we probably wore it out. We watched it so much. It is like one of the greatest freaking VHS tapes about a group ever. I mean,
because there's so much cool stuff in there. You see like early Dave Mustaine in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the interviews with Cliff Burton. It's like, we'll get to it, that he's talking about, like, we're not trying to be big and flashy. We just get out there, do what we do, like, to keep it that way. I'm kind of paraphrasing what he's saying, which goes against what eventually Metallica does. Like, we want to play our music and just keep it that way. You remember that?
Yes. Yeah, I love that quote. I think you and I were talking about it one day, and I said, I'll be a little crass here, but I said Cliff Burton was the balls of Metallica.
Yeah.
I think he was the driving force of it. I think he kept them grounded.
And creatively, even, you could make that case. Creatively, he was the driving force.
And he said, we're not trying to be big and fancy. It's just us doing what we do, and we'd like to keep it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like etched into my brain. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, this guy was nothing to look at. I mean, he looked like basically every white guy you saw in high school with long hair. I mean, he was not like, but his essence, who he was, kind of emanated throughout Metallica. So I think the downfall of Metallica. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on your social media, and or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram and X. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.